The Daily Code Snippet. You may be tempted to use a table to create a layout for a web page because it can create a grid of columns and rows to lay out the elements on a page. However, this would be a mistake. Although in some websites you may see this. Tables should solely be used to present data in a tabular form. When a table is encountered by a screen reader, the reader will announce to the user that there is a table with a certain number of columns and rows. This additional information will distract the user from the content, and in addition, the table may be read in a way that would not make sense for the content being presented. Instead, you should be using the CSS to style the layout of your page. When applying principles for accessibility to your table, you would want to include a header to identify to a user what data is being presented. Larger tables may need the addition of a scope attribute, which provides more detail. And finally, you would want to add a table caption to give the user information on how best to understand the content in the table. In an earlier episode, we learned about the label element. It is used to indicate to the user what data is being sought from them. Here is an example of its use. Here we have a form element. Within the form element are 3 input types. One is for the user's first name, one is for the user's last name, and the final is a submit input. The first name and last name inputs both have labels. The label element is also added for accessibility. A screen reader will read out the label when the user focuses on the input element. In addition, users who have difficulty clicking in a small region will be assisted by the label element because it can toggle checkboxes and radio buttons when the text is clicked. The for attribute in the label element is used to bind the label to the ID attribute of the input element. So in this case, the first label with the for attribute of first name will attach that label to the first input, which has an ID attribute of first name. This way, the user knows that the first input is for them to enter their first name. It is important to provide label elements to tag all form controls. This includes all types of form inputs that include text fields, checkboxes, radio buttons, and drop-down menus. Positioning of the label is also important since maintaining a consistent placement increases predictability and users have expectations for how form elements work. So in left to right languages, it is customary to place labels to the right of the radio buttons and checkboxes, while to the left and above other form fields. Placing labels above form fields reduces horizontal scrolling for those with low vision and those on mobile. The goal should be to maintain a visual relationship between the label and the form field. Presented by Designers Learn Code.